Tito's Handmade Vodka is America's favorite vodka for a reason. From the first legal distillery in Texas, Tito's is 6 times distilled till it's just right. And naturally gluten-free, making it a high-quality spirit that mixes with just about anything. From the smoothest martinis to the best Bloody Marys. Tito's is known for giving back, teaming up with nonprofits to serve its communities and do good for dogs. Make your next cocktail with Tito's. Distilled and bottled by 5th Generation Inc., Austin, Texas. 40% alcohol by volume. Savor responsibly.
Chronic spontaneous urticaria, or chronic hives with no known cause. It's so unpredictable. It's like playing pinball. Itchy, red bumps start on my arm, then my back. Sometimes my legs. Hives come out of nowhere. And it comes and goes. But I just found out about a treatment option at treatmyhives.com. Take that, chronic hives. Learn more at treatmyhives.com.
Hello, this is Simon Brew. I'm the editor of Film Stories magazine, and a very warm welcome to the Film Stories podcast. What do you say, Bruce?
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Come with me.
And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
And movies that had stories.
That the story just sucks them in.
This is just the beginning.
Stories. We would be honored if you would join us.
Hello, and a very warm welcome to Film Stories with Simon Brew. I am Simon Brew. As always, it's absolutely everything you need to know about me. The aim of the podcast? Well, it's given away by the title. I'm here to tell the stories of films, and I tend to talk about development stories, marketing stories, release stories, behind-the-scenes stories, really. All the ingredients that go towards making the films that we know and sometimes love. Just that, the films that we know and sometimes love. The films I tend to cover on this podcast lean more towards the mainstream than anything else. They're films I'm interested in or invested in to some degree. I try not to do snark. I try not to punch down. This podcast is a celebration of cinema and a real appreciation that films somehow, although not in the case of this episode, manage to get made. Film Stories is also a very proud part of the Film Stories podcast network, a network of over 50 shows covering films, TV, gaming. If you just do a search, Film Stories podcast network, you'll be able to find, hopefully, another show that you'd like to listen to. I hope you like listening to this one, though. So, a bit of self-interest there as well. This particular episode, usually I cover 2 films in a given episode for reasons which I will explain once the end credits music has played. I'm just doing one this time round. I'm kind of like having to do what I can with what I've got. Again, I'll go into this at the very, very end of the episode, but it's one I've wanted to do for a while, which is a film that never got made in the end, a 6th entry in the Die Hard series. So I'm going to set this up with a bit of Beethoven's Ode to Joy. I thought that would be nice and might make me sound cultural for a little bit. I'll come to the story the other side of this. So this is a film story that didn't actually result in a film. Still, as much as we celebrate Die Hard 2, Die Hard with a Vengeance, sometimes Die Hard 4, not often the 5th one, there were plans for a 6th one. So what happened? I'm glad you asked. We start our story here. Let's go to 2013. Let's start it there. That was the point on Valentine's Day, if memory serves, where 20th Century Fox released Die Hard 5, or A Good Day to Die Hard. This was Bruce Willis reprising the role of John McClane in a film directed by John Moore that, well, my memory of the film was I was working for a website having to review it. The review embargo on the movie lifted like let's just say they left it relatively late. The press screening for the film took place at 9:30 in the evening, the day before the release of the movie. So on February the 13th, the embargo lifted at midnight on the day of release. That did not scream confidence. And when people saw the film, it was very clear why. It was Bruce Willis, Jai Courtney off to Russia. I mean, crikey, timely, for not even a bad Die Hard film. It's just a bad film. In the UK in particular, it had been trimmed to get a 12A certificate because that's what you want from your Die Hard films, folks. Put your guns away. Stop swearing. Let's just have a chat about stuff. That's much better. And, well, it didn't go particularly well. But, well, it's in a weird way, it sort of did, because commercially, this is often forgotten. As much as I don't see an army of fans for A Good Day to Die Hard, it did make its money. That it scraped together about $300 million at the worldwide box office. And in the UK, where it was cut for a 12A certificate, it was a particularly solid hit. I don't like to admit stuff like this, but here in the UK, we helped make it a hit. Now, even getting a fifth Die Hard film to the screen had been bumpy. That after the fourth movie, Live Free or Die Hard, stroke Die Hard 4.0, depending where you live, I'm in the UK, I'll be calling it Die Hard 4.0. The fourth film was arguably the one where it became a Bruce Willis action movie and he wasn't really playing John McClane anymore, the character of John McClane. I mean, it just could have been any Bruce Willis character in that fourth film. But I never minded it. I always quite enjoyed it. Len Wiseman directed, Kevin Smith turned up in the movie, and it was, on paper, the most commercially successful film in the Die Hard saga. And thus, a fifth film seemed an eventuality. Took 6-7 years to happen. But, I mean, it wasn't intended to be the end of the saga. In fact, as filming got underway in 2010 on what was then called Die Hard 5, Bruce Willis himself said to Contact Music that in the next few years they could easily find a replacement for me or call the character someone else. But for me, here's the quote, I want to do Die Hard 5, then one final Die Hard movie, Die Hard 6, before finally hanging that white vest up for good. So he said, at the moment, I can run and I can fight on screen. There'll come a time when I no longer want to do that. That's when I'll step away from the Die Hard films. So 2013 then, there was a plan for a sixth Die Hard movie. And in fact, already by that point, a comic book series had come out called Die Hard Year One. Now, this came out 2009, 2010, ran for 8 issues, I think, written by Howard Chaykin, and it basically explored the character of John McClane, played by Bruce Willis, in the 1970s as a New York rookie cop. It was set in 76. And I mean, comic books are known for going back and doing the origin story, whether you ask for it or not. I mean, certainly worked a lot of the time as well. But Die Hard Year One wasn't wonderfully well received, but it lit a spark somewhere. And as much as it raised the question, who needs to know the origin story of John McClane? Just ask George Lucas. When's that ever stopped anyone? That said, there is an argument that in the original Die Hard film, the 1988 much-loved classic, you get all the information, all the setup for John McClane that you could ever need. He is a cop. He's on the other side of the country to his wife, Holly. And, that's it. What really else? What other setups you need? Still, this comic book went back into his early years, walking the beat in New York City. And so Fox had a bit of a quandary because Die Hard was still a potent name. Even when you make a bad Die Hard film, there's $300 million in the bank. However, there was a little bit of what I describe as a Planet of the Apes moment, because as much as the money had come in, if you go back to Tim Burton's 2001 Planet of the Apes film, it was a box office success. But on the flip side, it just wasn't a liked film at all. Go back and watch it. It's not a good film. I remember at the time, just like, what? And Fox had planned a sequel to Burton's Planet of the Apes, but didn't detect much audience warmth towards it, and so didn't gamble on doing a direct follow-up to that. In fact, it would retire the Planet of the Apes saga for a good decade or so, and it would be successfully rebooted with Rise of the Planet of the Apes. We've had, 4 films since then. So, in the case of Die Hard, there was a feeling that the cool reaction to A Good Day to Die Hard 5, might have done for things, but not so. Because within a year or two, there was momentum for a kind of a Rocky Balboa almost moment, a final Die Hard film. This will be the one to end it all. Now, enter stage left a producer by the name of Lorenzo de Bonaventura. Now, Lorenzo de Bonaventura, most of his work at the moment was set up at Paramount Pictures. But he'd worked with Bruce Willis before, notably on the much-loved classic G.I. Joe Retaliation. Honestly, the shelves are groaning under the weight of all the Oscars that won. It's not a great film, G.I. Joe Retaliation, but still, he and Willis got on. And so Lorenzo de Bonaventura's interested in doing this new Die Hard film, and Len Wiseman, go back to the 4th movie, Live Free or Die Hard, stroke Die Hard 4.0. Wiseman directed that and was interested in coming back and doing another one. I mean, there's form there in the Die Hard saga, right? John McTiernan does the first film, Rennie Harlin does the second. John McTiernan comes back to do the 3rd film. And so Wiseman was interested in coming back, and he pitched this idea for what he would like, and de Bonaventura was interested. And so there was a report, this was 2015, and there was a report at Deadline that just said, I'm told that Wiseman and de Bonaventura are looking for a screenwriter to script a reinvention of the venerable action series, one that's sort of a prequel while still leaving room for Willis to play McClane as well. And the idea was that Bruce Willis would come in and bookend a story that was mainly set in 1979, where you get gritty John McClane in gritty New York in the late 70s, showing how he became a die-hard kind of guy. So this was what, 2000, around 2015. So de Bonaventura was set up at Paramount, but was going to make this at Fox. And Willis was, Bruce Willis was in the loop. He knew what was happening. And it was in 2015 when he was attending the premiere of one of his films, Rock the Casbah, that on the red carpet, he described the new Die Hard film as, quote, a very good idea, a very tricky idea. And he said, I'm very happy about it. So this seemed on paper to be Die Hard Year One. That they were going back to the comic. They were going to explore bits of the story that we weren't necessarily that interested in. Maybe there'd be a galactic trade conference or something in episode 1. Who knows? But still, there was interest in this going. Now, we didn't hear anything then for a year or two. And in fact, by early 2017, I remember having a sniff around, and 20th Century Fox was quite mum about it at that point. And I spoke to an old colleague of mine who keeps an eye out on what are known as open writing assignments, which, it's not an infallible way to check whether a film is active or not, but it's a useful indicator of, is something in active development? Is a studio actively chasing this project up? And that contact reported to me, no, early 2017, there's no open writing assignment here. We don't know any writers who are involved in the screenplay. Has this stalled? Might have stalled. Still, come the autumn, then we get a jolt for it. And suddenly it's no longer Die Hard 6, it's called John McClane. We're following the Rocky Balboa, John Rambo. There's a new Rambo film on the way, John Rambo. Name the character. Remember that action film, Erin Brockovich? It's following that kind of lineage. So now called John McClane. Now Len Wiseman was still involved, still on board. And in fact, he would be the one constant, along with Willis, right throughout this process. That's two constants, isn't it? Pedantry. I know, I'm pedantic to myself. So Len Wiseman at this point was working on a TV version of the Underworld movie franchise. Now, he directed the Underworld movies, made a big success of them. And so in September 2017, he's talking to Deadline, and he says, yeah, there's a sixth Die Hard film. We're still working on it. I'm doing this Underworld TV show, doing the Die Hard film. And so the report at that point in the Hollywood trade press said the plot has been under wraps, but is described still as a prequel/sequel that will involve John McClane in both the present day and 1970s New York. Bruce Willis will be returning to play the iconic character as casting now begins back end of 2017 for the actor who will portray McClane when he was a New York City beat cop. Now, most of us movie nerds were screaming Joseph Gordon-Levitt, having sat through Rian Johnson's terrific Looper, but he didn't ever seem to be in the running for it. And in fact, I don't ever remember hearing any name in the running for that particular role of young John McClane. But as Wiseman said, at the back end of 2017, the right casting for this role is crucial. And just said, those bare feet have some very big shoes to fill. Very good. I like that. So then we move on a few months. We're going to early 2018, and the future of 20th Century Fox starts to become up in the air, just in the background, that this was the point where Disney was announcing it's going to do its Disney Plus streaming service, cannibalize loads of its bits of its business to do that. Rupert Murdoch, then owner of 20th Century Fox, is looking at it and just thinking, we've got to this too late. I need to get out the entire business. So motoring in the background quietly is a plan for Murdoch to cash out of Fox entirely and to get rid of the 20th Century Fox film studio as part of that. Still, in March 2018, Fox still had 100 projects or so in various stages of development. Die Hard 6 or John McClane, whatever you want to call it, was still one of them. I should note there was at one point the idea of doing Die Hard 24/7, and this would have crossed the Die Hard saga with the 24 TV series with Kiefer Sutherland as Jack Bauer. I think that was mainly clickbait talk on the whole. There were a few whispers about it. But anyway, that was for what became Die Hard 5. Not Die Hard 6. You follow him? So let's go to March 2018 and go over to a site called The Tracking Board, which exclusively reported that they'd got some screenwriters hired. And this was the first tangible sign, really, that pieces were moving along the board. Chad and Kerry Hayes had just finished writing the sequel to The Conjuring and were hired by 20th Century Fox with the agreement of Bruce Willis to write a new Die Hard film. And again, the Tracking Board is reporting that the narrative is pretty much still the same. An origin story of sorts, younger actor portraying McClane, 70s New York. Willis comes in and he's going to bookend the film. The film itself will then move between the past, present, etc. So we go on a few more months and Len Wiseman is chatting again. So we're in the summer of 2018 now. Still no sign of unpacking the cameras and getting the thing shot at that point. However, the conversations are getting more and more tangible because Wiseman then confirmed actually Bruce Willis is now having a more direct hand in the casting of the younger version of Bruce Willis. And Wiseman said at this point that he didn't know that if there was actual casting improvement. He didn't know if there was actually casting approval in Bruce Willis's contract, but it made sense to have him sign off anyway. If you go back to Kevin Smith's diaries and the point where Die Hard 4 was being made, and there were a couple of clashes over various narrative bits in the film, and Bruce Willis gets on the phone, and Smith has written this down. It's a fascinating chapter, and just says to the executive, "Who's your second choice to play John McClane?" I mean, basically, whether he had contractual right to approve the casting or not, all he had to do was say, "I'm going to do the film." It's just like, and then the film can't happen. He's the one crucial piece of the jigsaw, and without him, it wasn't going to happen. As such, Willis involved in the casting, and there was talk then that, what do you know, the character of Holly was going to return. So one of the great sadnesses of the later Die Hard films is the first two movies set up this collection of characters, and where they were more ensemble films really than a movie star film. And you go through that first film and you can reel off the names of characters from there. And I always think it's a good test of a film. If you get to the end of a movie and you can name 6 characters that you didn't know before, that's been a really, something's really worked there. Aliens is a good one for that as well. I defy anyone to tell you 6 characters from Die Hard 5, and you get one for free at the start, really. Die Hard 1, I think, yeah. Argyle, bless him. But Die Hard 1, eminently doable. The second one, yeah, because it brings back some of those. But then Holly is reduced to a phone call at the end of Die Hard 3. You don't see Bonnie Bedelia, who portrayed Holly, on screen. She's just on the phone. The fourth film, bring in the kids. Fourth and fifth, kids. And so there was talk at this point, certainly of a younger version of the character of Holly, Gennaro, McClane. But Bonnie Bedelia was asked if rumoured to have been asked if she would be interested in reprising her role for the contemporary part of the story. And I just think that would have given the later films a little bit more of an anchor, really. And it was sort of missing. And the idea of bringing her back, okay, that's more interesting. That's finally getting back to like the roots of the character. We're no longer some guy surfing on a Harrier jet and lorries and blah, 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 or going off to Russia to save the world. You're back to something grounded, something relatable. You look at what that first film is about. It's just a bloke in a building, an ordinary bloke in a building, just trying to keep his wife alive, get to the end of Christmas Eve. By the time you get to the fourth and fifth films, it's save the world. It's less interesting. So this was pointing in the right direction. Now, Wiseman then confirmed to MovieWeb around that time that the core idea has not changed at all in the points that he was on the movie. Still working in parallel, still cutting back and forth. What we see in the 70s has ramifications on present day Bruce, he said. So we're heading to the end of 2018, and it's looking like this might start to happen. So Wiseman gives a big interview to Slash Film, and he confirms Die Hard's going to be happening fairly soon. He said, I've got no dates. I've been asked about dates before, and I'm always wrong. And the date is when the script is right, he said, which is when we all want to go. Now, Wiseman had been in the mix of a Die Hard movie without a finished script. He said, the truth is we started prepping Live Free or Die Hard 4.0, when the script was not ready. The process of working on the script as we were shooting the movie is not the funnest thing in the world to do. We pulled it together, but nobody wants to go through that again. And so he said this time, I think it's also so more so than any other time, the script's very important. We've seen it all. We've seen a lot. I think even say 10 years ago, I think studios in general were a little bit more willing to put movies like franchise movies into production with a sense of we'll continue to work on the script. And Wiseman said, I think that attitude's changed. There is a hint in that, and this is a little bit me reading between the lines, that Fox knew it had been burned on the fifth film. Even though this was going to be the grand hurrah, and no one was ever talking about a Die Hard 7, it needed it to be right for it to work. And then, it was pushing forward. In September 2018, for instance, you go to the website GWW, and it's talking about crew are now being hired. The film is crewing up. So this is progress. So art directors Carol Uranek, who'd worked on Captain Marvel, and James Trousdale, who'd worked on Blade 2, Mercury Rising with Bruce Willis. The art directors had been hired for the film. And so, this was expected that art directors would be amongst the first hires, because now the movie was going to have to be set in 2 different time periods. That was going to be a little bit of extra work in the midst of already busy work for that. But the autumn of 2018, they were hired. They had started working on the film. Now, they'd be gone a few months later, but there was that bit in time at the back end of 2018 where this got as close as it was going to get to being, inverted commas, a go project. So we were pointing at this stage, well, I wasn't, to a late 2018, early 2019 shoot, but there was still talk of script problems. There was also, I should acknowledge, Bruce Willis's health was deteriorating in the background, and it casts a shadow even over the telling of this story, the awful things that he's had to go through. And I will come to that shortly, but just acknowledging that was going on at the same time. Now, in September 2018 again, Lorenzo de Bonaventura was talking to Empire magazine and talking to Entertainment Weekly as well. And he revealed at that point the title of the film had changed. It wasn't called John McClane anymore. It wasn't called Die Hard 6. It was now called McClane. Not a radical change, but still, he argued to Empire that you can tell our intention by the fact that the title page we handed in says McClane. And he says, we want you to get invested in John McClane more than ever before. I don't think I've ever been more invested in John McClane than in the first film. I would just suggest, that notwithstanding. I then got the chance to interview Lorenzo de Bonaventura in January of 2019. At this stage, he was working with Paramount on the Pet Sematary remake. Remember that? And so I had a conversation with him, and I slipped in a question, where are we on Die Hard 6? I mean, he admitted he's a huge fan of the original film, worked with Bruce Willis, and he told me in January 2019, we have, quote, a really good script that's going into the studio this week. Now, he did say they have not read it, but I would be confident saying I rated it, but it's up to them. And that's when the story started to come to a close. Because 2019 was, a bit of a year. If you go to the Disney acquisition of Fox, that, again, just lying in the background here, that was announced for the first time on December the 14th, 2017. So this Die Hard film has been going on while there's absolute uncertainty over the parent company making it. Now, it still had to go through regulatory approval. And so, 14, 15 months later, then the nod comes. Disney has completed its acquisition of 21st Century Fox. But part of the 21st Century Fox group of companies was 20th Century Fox Film Studios, as well as Fox Searchlight, Fox 2000. And one of the first things that Disney did is it went right, that once it had finished laying people off in the thousands, it went right through that Fox slate and canned so many projects. Track down Wes Ball, who went on to make Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, about the Mouse Guard, $100 million project where they were already nearly ready to go. They were weeks away from going. Disney pulls the plug. One of the casualties of that as well was Die Hard 6, or McClane, or John McClane. That Disney completed its deal and absolutely decimated the 20th Century Fox slate of films. To put it into some kind of context, Fox was releasing, 15 movies into cinemas a year. Disney announced an intention to knock that down to about three or four. And on the whole, it's been as good as its word. And even then, it's kind of followed the Deadpools. It's followed Le Mans 66, Ford v Ferrari crept through, but only just. It was just moving in time, really. But, we had new Alien film, we had new Planet of the Apes film. But all those films that 20th Century Fox used to make, Bohemian Rhapsody came out of them, gone. Now, Searchlight Pictures still goes, still generating lots of films, so it wasn't a total decimation of the Fox business, but it wasn't far from it, and Die Hard was an obvious casualty of that. Also, there was in the background Bruce Willis's ultimate diagnosis with aphasia. Now, Emma Willis has written a book fairly recently on her on the discovery of this diagnosis and how their life has changed. And it's not for me to put into words, her life story, her experience. So I direct you to that book. There was a point, a lot of this didn't become clear until a little bit down the line. And in fact, I think was it in 2000 that the last time we saw Bruce Willis portray John McClane on screen in new material was an advert for car batteries. And was used in that. But the Die Hard project was gone, and it was gone as a result of a corporate takeover and the horrible health decline of Bruce Willis. Promoting Ballerina last summer, which Len Wiseman directed, I mean, that's a story and a half we'll come to in the future. Wiseman reflected on his Die Hard movie that he didn't make, and he said, I was working on what was supposed to be the last John McClane movie. He said, for 4 years I was working on it. And he said, it was such a cool script and such a cool idea. And he said, other movies would pop up and I'd be like, no, this is going, we're close. And Wiseman said, there were 4 years where I thought that movie was happening, and then it didn't. Its window of opportunity, in hindsight, and I ain't a movie guy, I wasn't in the room, looks to have been the back end of 2018. That, I mean, again, hindsight is easy, is the point where Disney was closing in on its acquisition, and that, I mean, people could read the runes where that was going, and Willis was finding out, what was going on in his life as well. And in the end, it's those things that stopped the film being made. What I would say, though, is for those of you looking, I mean, what a thing to gift to the world. For those of you looking to enjoy the adventures of John McClane on the big screen again, so iconic is Willis's portrayal, and so iconic is that first film that all you have to do is wait for Christmas to roll around. Head to your local multiplex where there's bound to be a Christmas showing going on. Sit down and enjoy one of the finest films of its type on the big screen. You can allow yourself a yippee-ki-yay, and total respect and sending the total best to Bruce Willis on the off chance that he sees this. I never thought we needed the origin of that character. I think the first film is perfect. I think the second film is good fun. I think the third film is good fun. Don't mind the fourth. I think we got 4 perfectly watchable of varying quality films in the box set, and a fan-made weird thing at the end. Even so, it's a hell of a legacy, isn't it? Yippee-ki-yay, folks. Which brings me to a premature end for this latest episode of Film Stories. So I didn't even get to do like my parish notices in the middle, so I'm going to cram as much in here as I can. If you like podcasts, independent podcasts, please do like and subscribe and leave hugely positive reviews. If you really like this one and fancy supporting it, then, well, even more than you have done already, then patreon.com/Simon Brew. That's how you find out. Well, you get the podcast pretty much early, nearly every time. It's been bumpy. You also find out the gossip, what we're up to behind the scenes. You get it all ad-free and stuff like that. But it does bring to an end this episode of Film Stories. I'm live in London, if you get this in time, on the 27th of November 2025 as part of the Film Stories 500 celebrations. Ramesh Ranganathan is going to be joining me in person. I was surprised myself as well. It's at King's Place. In King's Cross, London. If you go to kingsplace.co.uk, search for Film Stories. Tickets are available there. It'd be lovely to see as many of you as possible, just so I can thank you in person as much as anything else. But other than that, you can find more from me on social media. I'm on Instagram, simon.brew, Blue Sky Simon Brew. Film Stories is on social media as well, you'd be surprised to hear. Blue Sky is Film Stories, YouTube is Film Stories, Facebook is Film Stories Online, Instagram is Film Stories Magazine UK. Yeah, we got a great handle for that, didn't we? Well done us. We've just sent to print, I haven't, the team have, the latest episode of Film Stories Magazine. I've seen it, it's really good. 168 pages. We're putting that up for pre-order shortly, but you can find all of our print magazines at store.filmstories.co.uk. You can also find our our clickbait, it's not ad-free, there's adverts on it, our clickbait and AI-free website, an editorial website, weird, that doesn't do clickbait and AI. Imagine such madness. You can find that at www.filmstories.co.uk. Normal service will hopefully be resumed imminently, but the main thing, as always, is you all stay safe and well. Thank you so much for your time. I'll be back soon with some more episodes of Film Stories. Take care, folks. Thank you. And so the the post credits bit, I've been dreading. The last time I recorded one of these was the episode with Kevin Smith, where I'd been told at that point that my dad had days, and you're listening now a week and a bit after he passed. And so it's been a very, very bumpy time, as you would expect. It was no surprise in the end that he passed, and I was sort of, in a weird way, relieved for him. It was one of those by the end, sadly, but he's had a good life. He had a great life. I was very, very lucky to know him. It's just kind of trying to find whatever the new normal is. Now I've lost both my parents. I know I'm not alone with this. I know it's something people go through. So I'm just working my way through that. I know also people have been in touch, and thank you to everyone who's been in touch, who are going through something similar or just to offer support. I mean, humans have to prop humans up, really, don't they? Because all the people in power ain't going to do it. We've got to have each other's backs, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate it all. It's been quite a time. In terms of these episodes, I mean, I've been working on specials for a while anyway, just because I really love doing specials. But I wanted to do films. I mean, I got into this telling film stories, and so I wanted to do a film stories one, but all the running round meant I only had time to put one film story in this, because they take quite a lot of research and quite a bit of work. So hopefully you'll forgive me on this occasion, just for kind of slightly shortchanging you, but I sort of have to get back into the saddle and try and find my groove again in quite difficult time. Sorry, I'm not going to edit this, because like, human beings are supposed to get upset, so I'm not going to cut any of this out. I just miss him. Thanks everyone. And thank you for your continued support. I mean, you've had my back now for a very, very long time. It's seen and appreciated, and I just thank you. I wish I had some flowery way to say all of this, or some magic wand or something like that I could gift you all umpteen Blu-ray copies of Geostorm by way of appreciation, but you'll just have to take my heartfelt thanks. Be back soon, folks. Thank you.